What if the worst thing that ever happened to you actually unlocked abilities that most people don't even believe exist? I know this sounds impossible, but there's a hidden connection between trauma and psychic phenomena that researchers have been quietly studying for decades. The same brain changes that happen when you experience intense emotional pain can actually open up pathways to perception that normally stay locked. This isn't some new age fantasy or wishful thinking. There are real scientific explanations for why people who've been through hell often develop an uncanny ability to sense things others can't. They become human lie detectors, they feel energy shifts in rooms, they have prophetic dreams, or they just know things they shouldn't logically know. Today I'm going to show you the fascinating research behind this connection and explain exactly how trauma can rewire your brain in ways that science is only beginning to understand. Point 1. The survival radar amplification theory. Have you ever noticed how some people can walk into a room and instantly know something is wrong? They can't explain it, but they feel it in their bones. There's actually a scientific reason why trauma survivors often develop this almost supernatural ability to read people and situations. When your brain goes through intense trauma, something incredible happens that most people don't understand. Your nervous system doesn't just heal and move on, it actually upgrades itself into something much more powerful than it was before. This is the first connection between trauma and psychic abilities, and it's called the survival radar amplification theory. Trauma literally rewires your nervous system into a 24/7 threat detection machine. Your brain becomes hypervigilant, picking up micro-expressions, vocal tones, and body language changes that others completely miss. What people call psychic intuition is often this trauma-enhanced survival radar reading environmental cues at lightning speed and delivering gut feelings about people and situations. Your brain learned to spot danger by becoming incredibly sensitive to the smallest details that others ignore. This isn't magic. It's your upgraded survival system working exactly as it was designed to after trauma. Here's something that will really blow your mind about trauma survivors. Many of them report experiences that honestly sound impossible. They talk about leaving their body, seeing things from above, or even accessing information they shouldn't know. Doctors used to think this was just imagination or, some kind of mental illness, but new research is revealing something absolutely fascinating about what really happens during these experiences. When trauma becomes too overwhelming for your mind to handle, your consciousness does something pretty remarkable to protect you. This brings us to the second connection, which is the dissociation gateway phenomenon. When trauma forces your consciousness to leave your body during overwhelming experiences, you accidentally discover pathways out of ordinary awareness. This dissociative ability, once developed, can actually be consciously accessed later. Many trauma survivors report out-of-body experiences, remote viewing abilities, or accessing information while in altered states because their brain learned these escape routes during crisis. Think of it like this. Your mind created emergency exits during trauma, and now you can use those same exits to explore consciousness in ways most people never will. This isn't a disorder. It's actually an ability that trauma accidentally unlocked in your brain. Have you ever been around someone and suddenly felt their emotions as if they were your own? Or maybe you've experienced their physical pain in your own body? If you're a trauma survivor, this probably happens to you more than you realize. There's actually a scientific explanation for why this occurs, and it's the third way trauma creates psychic abilities. Normal people have emotional boundaries that keep their feelings separate from others. But trauma does something that completely changes this natural protection system. This is called the empathic overflow effect. Trauma breaks down the normal barriers between self and others. When your own emotional boundaries are shattered, you become like a broken radio that picks up everyone else's signals. This creates what seems like telepathic empathy, feeling others' emotions, physical sensations, or even thoughts, because your nervous system lost its natural filtering system. Your brain's protective walls came down during trauma, and now information flows between you and others in ways that seem impossible. This isn't weakness. This is your nervous system operating without the normal filters that block psychic connection. You're literally feeling what others feel because trauma removed the barriers that usually keep minds separate. Here's where things get really interesting about trauma and psychic abilities. Have you ever had a dream that came true? Or walked into a place and felt like you'd been there before, even though you hadn't? Maybe you've had moments where you just knew something was going to happen before it did. Most people dismiss these experiences as coincidence, but there's actually a scientific reason why trauma survivors experience this more than others. Trauma does something to your brain that most people don't understand. It actually changes how you experience time itself. This is the fourth connection, and it's called the time perception fracture. Severe trauma can actually damage your brain's normal relationship with linear time. This creates windows where past, present, and future information can bleed through. Trauma survivors often experience prophetic dreams, déjà vu, or knowing things before they happen because their perception of time became fractured and nonlinear. When your brain experienced trauma, it broke the normal time boundaries that keep most people locked in the present moment. Now, you can sometimes access information from different time periods because your brain's time filter got damaged. This isn't imagination. It's your brain operating outside normal time constraints. You walk into a room and immediately feel uncomfortable, but you can't explain why. Everyone else seems fine, but something just feels off to you. Or maybe you can sense when someone is watching you from across a crowded space. These aren't random experiences. There's a scientific explanation for why trauma survivors often develop these seemingly supernatural sensitivities. When trauma rewires your brain, it doesn't just affect your emotions and thoughts. It actually changes how sensitive you are to everything around you. This is the fifth connection, called heightened frequency sensitivity. Trauma puts your nervous system in a permanent state of heightened sensitivity to all stimuli, including electromagnetic frequencies, sound vibrations, and energy fields that most people filter out. This hypersensitivity can manifest as feeling energy from people, sensing presences, or picking up information from environments that others can't detect. Your nervous system became like a highly tuned antenna after trauma. It picks up signals and frequencies that normal brains automatically ignore. This is why you can feel things others can't. Your brain lost its natural filtering system and now detects subtle energy patterns that most people never notice. What feels like psychic ability is actually your trauma-enhanced nervous system reading environmental information at an incredibly detailed level. Have you ever met someone and instantly knew what they were thinking or feeling even though they were trying to hide it? Or maybe you found yourself finishing people's sentences or knowing what they're going to say before they say it. This isn't just good social skills. There's a neurological explanation for why trauma survivors often develop this uncanny ability to read people's minds. Your brain contains special cells called mirror neurons that help you understand others by mimicking their internal states. In most people, these neurons work at a normal level, but trauma changes everything about how these cells function. This is the sixth connection, known as the mirror neuron overdrive mechanism. Trauma survivors develop hyperactive mirror neuron systems to better predict and avoid future threats. This creates an unconscious ability to deeply mirror and understand others' internal states, leading to seemingly psychic insights about people's thoughts, feelings, and intentions. Your brain learned to read people at an incredibly deep level because it needed to predict danger. Now, those same overactive mirror neurons give you almost telepathic insights into what others are thinking and feeling. You're not reading minds. You're unconsciously mirroring people so intensely that you feel their thoughts and emotions as if they were your own. Here's the most mind-blowing connection between trauma and psychic abilities. Sometimes trauma survivors report downloading information they never learned, knowing things about people they just met, or accessing knowledge that seems to come from nowhere. Scientists used to dismiss these experiences completely, but quantum physics is revealing something incredible about consciousness and trauma. When your brain experiences extreme trauma, it doesn't just change psychologically, it actually shifts into different brainwave patterns that may connect to information fields most people can't access. This is the seventh connection, called the quantum consciousness bridge. Extreme emotional states during trauma may actually shift brainwave patterns into frequencies that tap into quantum field information. Some researchers theorize that consciousness at these altered frequencies can access non-local information, explaining how trauma survivors sometimes download knowledge they never learned. Think of your brain like a radio during trauma. The intense experience changed your frequency settings, and now you can tune into information channels that most people's brains can't receive. This isn't supernatural, it's your consciousness operating at quantum frequencies that trauma accidentally unlocked. You're accessing information that exists in quantum fields because your brain learned to operate at these altered frequencies during extreme experiences. Now that you understand how trauma created these abilities, here's the most important part. You need to learn how to use these gifts without being overwhelmed by them. Many trauma survivors feel cursed by their sensitivity instead of empowered by it. But there's a way to transform these abilities from survival mechanisms into conscious tools. This final connection is called the Integration and Empowerment Protocol. The key is learning to distinguish between trauma-induced hypervigilance and genuine intuitive abilities. Practice grounding techniques to manage overwhelming sensitivity while preserving your enhanced perceptual gifts. Transform your trauma-born abilities from survival mechanisms into conscious tools for healing and helping others. Start by setting boundaries around your sensitivity. Learn when to tune in and when to tune out. Practice meditation to control your heightened awareness instead of being controlled by it. Use your ability to read people to help them, not just to protect yourself. Channel your enhanced empathy into healing work or creative expression. Remember that these abilities aren't accidents. They're gifts that emerged from your deepest pain. When you learn to use them consciously, you can help others in ways that most people never could. Your trauma didn't just hurt you. It also gave you superpowers that the world desperately needs. Your trauma didn't just hurt you. It may have accidentally opened doors in your consciousness that most people never even know exist. The key is learning to walk through those doors with intention rather than fear. You're not broken because you're sensitive. You're not crazy because you know things you shouldn't know. You're enhanced. Your brain rewired itself during your darkest moments and gave you abilities that can change your life and the lives of others. Stop seeing your trauma as only destruction. Start seeing it as the source of your greatest gifts. The world needs what you've become.